following tale may not be suitable for younger children. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome back, dear listeners. You're listening to Folks and Fairies, stories read by Miss Morgan. This is episode 4, Hansel and Gretel, by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, 1812, Part 1. Next to a great forest, there lived a poor woodcutter with his wife and 2 children. The boy's name was Hansel, and the girl's name was Gretel. He had but little to eat, and once, when a great famine came to the land, he could no longer provide even their daily bread. One evening, as he was lying in bed worrying about his problems, he sighed and said to his wife, "What is to become of us? How can we feed our children when we have nothing for ourselves?" "Do you know what?" answered the woman. "Early tomorrow morning, we will take the 2 children out into the thickest part of the woods, make a fire for them, and give each of them a little piece of bread. Then leave them by themselves and go off to our work. They will not find their way back home, and we will be rid of them." "No, woman," said the man. "I will not do that. How could I bring myself to abandon my own children alone in the woods? Wild animals would come soon and tear them to pieces." "You fool," she said. "Then all 4 of us will starve. All you can do is to plane the boards for our coffins." And she gave him no peace until he agreed. "But I do feel sorry for the poor children," said the man. The 2 children had not been able to fall asleep because of their hunger, and they had heard what the stepmother had said to their father. Gretel cried bitter tears and said to Hansel, "It is over with us." "Be quiet, Gretel," said Hansel, "and don't worry, I know what to do." As soon as the adults had fallen asleep, he got up, pulled on his jacket, opened the lower door, and crept outside. The moon was shining brightly, and the white pebbles in front of the house were glistening like silver coins. Hansel bent over and filled his jacket pockets with them, as many as would fit. Then he went back to the house and said, "Don't worry, Gretel. Sleep well. God will not forsake us." Then he went back to bed. At daybreak, even before sunrise, the woman came and woke the 2 children. "Get up, you lazy bones. We are going into the woods to fetch wood." Then she gave each a little piece of bread, saying, "Here is something for midday. Don't eat it any sooner, for you'll not get any more." Gretel put the bread under her apron, because Hansel's pockets were full of stones. Then all together they set forth into the woods. After they had walked a little way, Hansel began stopping again and again, and looking back toward the house. The father said, "Hansel, why are you stopping and looking back? Pay attention now and don't forget your legs." "Oh, father," said Hansel, "I am looking at my white cat that is sitting on the roof and wants to say goodbye to me." The woman said, "You fool, that isn't your cat. That's the morning sun shining down the chimney." However, Hansel had not been looking at his cat, but instead had been dropping the shiny pebbles from his pocket onto the path. When they arrived in the middle of the woods, the father said, "You children gather some wood, and I will make a fire so you won't freeze." Hansel and Gretel gathered together some twigs, a pile as high as a small mountain. The twigs were set afire, and when the flames were burning well, the woman said, "Lie down by the fire and rest. We will go into the woods to cut wood. When we are finished, we will come back and get you." Hansel and Gretel sat by the fire. When midday came, each one ate his little piece of bread. Because they could hear the blows of an axe, they thought that father was nearby. However, it was not an axe. It was a branch that he had tied to a dead tree, and that the wind was beating back and forth. After they had sat there a long time, their eyes grew weary and closed, and they fell sound asleep. When they finally awoke, it was dark at night. Gretel began to cry and said, "How will we get out of the woods?" Hansel comforted her. "Wait a little until the moon comes up, and then we'll find a way." After the full moon had come up, Hansel took his little sister by the hand. They followed the pebbles that glistened there like newly minted coins, showing them the way. They walked throughout the entire night, and as morning was breaking, they arrived at the father's house. They knocked on the door, and when the woman opened it and saw that it was Hansel and Gretel, she said, "You wicked children! Why did you sleep so long in the woods? We thought that you did not want to come back." But the father was overjoyed when he saw his children once more, for he had not wanted to leave them alone. Not long afterward, there was once again great need everywhere, and one evening the children heard the mother say to the father, "We have again eaten up everything. We have only half a loaf of bread, and then the song will be over. We must get rid of the children. We will take them deeper into the woods, so they will not find their way out. Otherwise, there will be no help for us." The man was very disheartened, and he thought, "It would be better to share the last bit with the children." But the woman would not listen to him, scolded him, and criticized him. He who says A must also say B, and because he had given in the first time, he had to do so the second time as well. The children were all still awake and had overheard the conversation. When the adults were asleep, Hansel got up again and wanted to gather pebbles as he had done before. But the woman had locked the door, and Hansel could not get out. But he comforted his little sister and said, "Don't cry, Gretel. Sleep well. God will help us." Early the next morning the woman came and got the children from their beds. They received their little pieces of bread, even less than last time. On the way back to the woods, Hansel crumbled his piece in his pocket, then often stood still and threw crumbs onto the ground. "Hansel, why are you always stopping and looking around?" said the father. "Keep walking straight ahead." "I can see my pigeon sitting on the roof. It wants to say goodbye to me." "Fool," said the woman. "That isn't your pigeon. That is the morning sun shining on the chimney." But little by little, Hansel dropped all the crumbs onto the path. The woman took them deeper into the woods than they had ever been in their whole lifetime. Once again, a large fire was made, and the mother said, "Sit here, children. If you get tired, you can sleep a little. We are going into the woods to cut wood. We will come and get you in the evening when we are finished." When it was midday, Gretel shared her bread with Hansel, who had scattered his piece along the path. Then they fell asleep, and evening passed, but no one came to get the poor children. It was dark at night when they awoke, and Hansel comforted Gretel and said, "Wait, when the moon comes up, I will be able to see the crumbs of bread that I have scattered, and they will show us the way back home." When the moon appeared, they got up, but they could not find any crumbs, for the many thousands of birds that fly about in the woods and in the fields had pecked them up. Hansel said to Gretel, "We will find our way." But they did not find it. This is the end of Part 1, Hansel and Gretel by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, 1812. Join us next time for Part 2.